Issue to look at. We're looking at problems, unfortunately, in this half of the show, and this is the one about corruption. It's a word we always come to, and I'd say particularly when we talk about Africa, the money that goes into Africa, people say there's corruption everywhere, the money doesn't get down to where it should in the first place.
Sure. Again, you have to point to the global banking system, and what keeps the global banking system afloat is what Gordon Brown himself called the shadow banking system. So the world has an approximate GDP of $60 trillion. There is, according to the Gordon Brown's office, about that amount of money in the shadow banking system that's totally unregulated and unaccounted for, that's used by the machinations inside the global banking system to manipulate prices. So getting back to the food crisis in places like India, it's not about not having enough food. It's about the fact that the markets are completely rigged and completely manipulated, and in more and more instances, the very stuff of food itself, seeds, are being turned into a commodity to create leveraged portfolios of loans for a very corrupt banking industry. So I would imagine going forward, and they're already talking about this, that collateralized debt obligations are going to be replaced with commodity-backed obligations, leveraged commodity-backed obligations. The same things that destroyed the housing market are being created right now to continue the destruction of the agricultural market. And the bankers have no compunction about this. They're not shy about it. They openly advertise in the Wall Street Journal for people to invest in these commodity-backed leveraged assets because they know that they're about to undergo another phase of imperial conquest of the world's so-called developing nations. I don't know why they call them the developing nations. They're the ones with all the resources. They should be called the king nations. But there you have it. They're getting ready for the next round of banking manipulation to, of course it's corrupt, but it's corrupt on a different level than just the local official taking bribes and graft.
Right.
It's more of a systemic corruption based on a failure of the last 25 years of the neoliberal, what's called a neoliberal model of the Reagan and Thatcher era, which even though it's collapsing, and even though many people are being forced into poverty, they're still perpetuating this by creating new commodity-based versions of the same products that fostered incredible economic duress in the past 24 months.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope these ministers in Italy are watching our show, because we've listed pretty much every problem they've got on their plate over the next few days. After the break, we're going to look at all the solutions, what more can be done by the rich countries to make a real difference in the poor ones. Back in a moment.